Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And today I want to talk about the changes to the featured shop which have now introduced the Ultimates packs. We had some rumblings about this on Reddit as part of a data mining effort from a few members, and they noticed that there were stuff, hidden in the game's files and the information for these packs, but now they are in the game. They're officially here for the next, it looks like 2 weeks or just under 2 weeks, and I wanted to discuss it with you guys for a couple of reasons. I wanted to tell you whether or not I think these are a good deal, and then secondly I wanted to discuss a bit of unfortunate reaction on the side of the community to these packs in general. So first I'll knock out the easier question, which is, are these packs worthwhile? I think that the smaller packs, while they are cheaper, are not really worth it. 80 biometrics is really not going to get you much of anywhere. If you have them at 1 star, it's barely going to get you to 4 stars, I believe. And then from there, it just gets really outrageous. Even if you have them already at 6 stars, 80 biometrics is not going to get you more than 1 piece of gear up to 20, and it might not even do 1 piece of gear. You might get super unlucky and not even be able to do 1 piece of gear. So it's going to require multiple purchases. I think this is only an option for people potentially like me who only have a couple of gears left for 1 specific character. So in my case, for those of you that want me to relate to you in some way, because I know I already have Nova and Anti-Man at tier 2, so take it into consideration, I did decide to only use the lab to get Blue Marvel up to tier 2 so I could experience what other people are talking about and how they complain about the drop rate, and it has been pretty brutal for me, despite using all of my antimatter for the past more than a month and a half. I only have 1 gear to 20 right now. I'm getting really unlucky with the rolls, but even then 80 bios might put me pretty close. I might buy 2 of them and get him to tier 2 with a regular tier 2 ticket. I'm not going to do that, but that would be who these packs are for. So I don't think they're good for new players. I don't think they're good for the majority of situations. They just don't offer enough. I think if they offered some Chaos Nornstones or some crystals or something else on top of this, it could be a little bit more enticing, and it would maybe be worth the price tag of $12. Keep in mind, when I'm comparing these in terms of their cost, you have to understand that these characters are among the strongest in the game. They are comparable to the top native tier 2 characters, comparable to Quicksilver, comparable to Jean Grey. They're by no means weak characters. And so when people try to compare these costs to something like the bio selector or the bio subscription, which is $12 or $10, and it gives you 600 bios. It does give you 600 bios, but none of the characters it gives you biometrics for are as good as Nova, Anti-Man, or Blue Marvel. That's just the case of the matter. Sharon Rogers is probably one of the only characters that comes close, or Spider-Man 2099, but even then, they're not as good. So it's not really a fair comparison. It would be like comparing the cost of Jean Grey in terms of Phoenix Feathers and Emcron Crystals to Spider-Man 2099 from the bio subscription. You can't really compare those 2 characters because one of them is obviously much stronger than the other. As far as these special packs go, I know they're quite expensive. I have to say right off the top, I think they're a bit overpriced. I think $50 US should have been the cutoff point. Actually, it might be 45 US, so I think like $50 Canadian, I guess, it should have been the cutoff point. Maybe $40 US or $35 US should have been the cutoff point. But nonetheless, it's not a horrible deal in terms of all of the deals that we've had in Marvel Future Fight. It's definitely not on the worst scale of things. The X-Men pack is definitely worse than this one. This X-Men Anniversary pack is definitely worse in terms of the value and in terms of what you get for the cost. It's almost double the cost, and you just get more crystals and you get some shards and some feathers. The flash sales have always been completely garbage. I know you purchase them with crystals and not real money, but seriously, 150 Nornstones of Omnipotence for 150 of those for 600 crystals is absolutely garbage. Additionally, we've always had these packs in the store. Again, I know they cost crystals, but 1800 crystals is like close to 20 bucks. No one would, in their right mind, would pay 1800 crystals to get one of these packs unless they were desperate. So that's who I think these special packs are aimed at. They are for some of the most powerful characters in the game, but they're definitely for the player who either loves these characters, 1, 2, or all 3, or is desperate to get ahead for their alliance, for their own personal enjoyment of the game, for the mastery of the game, what have you. Now, further than this, I want to go and talk a bit about the reaction that the community has had to these packs, because I think overall the reaction has been negative. Not to say that everyone has been negative, but a good portion of the player base in the comment section on videos, on Reddit, on other forums has been extremely negative. And I have to say I don't understand where the negativity is coming from. I mean, I understand where it's coming from, but it's definitely misplaced. And I think that if you're angry about these packs, then you should be angry about so many other things in the game that you should probably uninstall the game and stop playing. I think that people have gotten this incorrect view of the game and of Marvel Future Fight, that we should be given things strictly for crystals, and that if it costs real money, it should be so cheap that you can buy it with, you know, coffee money. It should be $5 or $10. Anything more than that, and everyone throws up their arms and starts losing their minds. Do I think this pack is overpriced? I absolutely do think it's a bit overpriced, but it's not terrible. The amount that you get for the cost is not terrible. It's obviously geared towards newer players. Keep that in mind. The Gear Up kits, the Dimension Debris. This is designed to want to build up Ant-Man or Nova or Blue Marvel from the ground up. So of course, veterans like me, I don't have any need for Gear Up kits, Dimension Debris, or Nornstones, or gold. Obviously, I have over 100 million gold. I'm really only interested in the Nova bios, let's say, I was, and the crystals. So yeah, 400 bios and 1500 crystals for $58.99 is not a good deal. However, that's just my assessment of things. It might be a good deal for someone else who is the biggest Nova fan ever. Why should anyone judge the pack because it's not for you? It's too expensive for you. I think that the community has gotten this idea that everything that comes out in the game should be as cheap and as accessible as possible for everyone all the time, and that there can never be any kind of exclusivity or any kind of more expensive character because it, you know, excludes a certain portion of the player base. And I think that's a really bad attitude to have. There have always been expensive things in the game. There have always been items that are way too expensive, or obviously more expensive than they should be for the average player, because they're not targeted at the average player. They're targeted at people who want to spend lots of money, and people who have lots of money to spend, and then people who really, really want that character. The fact of the matter is, you don't need Nova or Ant-Man or Blue Marvel to complete any of the content in this game. There's more than enough characters. You can still get 150 of the 153 characters without purchasing any of those packs. So it's not a necessity to buy them. If it's not a necessity to buy them, and if it doesn't matter to you, or if it doesn't impact your gameplay, it doesn't hurt you or help you if I purchase these packs, there should be no reason to hate on them specifically, or to even hate people who go out and buy them. We had a problem once upon a time with the loot boxes because it was gambling. We were not guaranteed the character, and at the time I said we should either get a way to farm these characters or a way to purchase these characters through real money or crystals that is clean. It's point A to point B. It's a transaction with a very clear cost input and cost output. That's exactly what we've gotten. So for anyone who thinks that Netmarble is trying to scam you, if anyone is thinking that this is, you know, their way of milking us, you know what? Maybe it is. I don't think this is a scam, but yeah, maybe Netmarble wants to get more money out of their game, and that's their choice ultimately. But to try and destroy or trash talk the whole game just because they want to make more money out of a few select characters is really counterintuitive. And I think, unfortunately for those players, they're actually hurting the game more than they realize, and they may be contributing to the downfall of the game by continuing that kind of rhetoric and that kind of attitude, and kind of looking for like-minded people to gather together and create kind of these shitstorms of discussion about how awful and how evil Netmarble is. They haven't done a lot of great updates lately. I'll admit that, yeah. They haven't really struck a home run in a while. Absolutely true. But if you go and you look at any other game, the number of things that happen that are similar to this in terms of new characters or new cards or new items, new equipment coming out that's expensive, at first at least, it's very much par of the course. This is the free-to-play or the freemium model. If you don't want to pay for it, you don't have to. But there will always be the opportunity for the company to make money for those players who do want to spend money. And we shouldn't insult those players. We shouldn't go on a witch hunt against those players because they want to spend money. They're spending money, which is allowing the game to continue operating and being free for everyone who doesn't want to pay or doesn't have the money to pay. So rather than taking this negative stance of I don't want to pay and I'm going to insult you and I'm going to, exclude you from my group because you want to pay, we should basically have the following reaction, okay? There should be one of two reactions. The first reaction is, this is too expensive, I'm not going to get this, I'll get other characters that I don't have to pay for. Or, I will go the free route, I know it's still painful, but it is free, and I will get Nova, Anti-Man, and Blue Marvel Bios via the Universal Processor. It's not the greatest method, I admit that, but it's still free. The second reaction you should have to these boxes, if you don't have the first reaction, is the following reaction. Oh, hey, I'm curious how Nova, Anti-Man, and Blue Marvel play in the game, how they perform in the game. You whale, you're gonna purchase those packs. Why don't you let me know how those characters play out? Thank you, or I'm grateful. It's helpful of you to purchase them for me, so I don't have to test them out myself and risk it if they're bad or they're lame. And at the end, you can tell me, and then we can have a discussion about it. And in that way, the community remains unified. We're not splintered with free-to-plays on one side and paying players on the other side or something like that, something silly or ridiculous like that, and everyone can benefit from that, The people that were smart, when I purchased the Adam Warlock pack, it was the same reaction. I wasn't purchasing it to show you guys how much more money I have than you. That's a ridiculous thing to do. If I wanted to do that, I would do some crazy stunt with a bathtub full of money, which I don't have. But that's not the point. The point was, I decided to do it to see how good the character was. Turns out at the time he wasn't very good, so that was a benefit to all players. So I think, and I really hope, that if you are one of those people who has that negative attitude, that you can maybe change your mind, change your perspective, and adopt a perspective that's healthier for these types of games. Because otherwise, I don't think that these types of games, and I'm speaking now for all free-to-play or freemium games, I don't think they are for you. Because if you go into the game, you don't want to pay, and you also want to insult people who want to pay, even if you think it's too expensive, you're kind of just being an asshole. So that's the last thing I wanted to end the conversation on. It's quite disappointing to see that amidst all the mistakes that Netmarble is making, within the community, we are also making a lot of mistakes with one another. And not just with the company that may or may not be mishandling their game, but that we're kind of mistreating each other. So, again, let me know what you guys think on the matter. Let your comments below. I'll read them and check them out. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.